here I want to introduce you to my new lens. This is the Nikon 20mm F2.8 AIS. Now what this is a manual lens, so no automatic focus. Take a photo, it looks brilliant. There, take a photo, everything looks brilliant. 20mm, so that's where Mr. Hippo is. But yet this camera is able to give me, even though it's closer, wider. This is what it looks like in the hand. And it has a focus, this is a focusing ring. And it is so smooth and precise. You'll also notice it's got a heck of a lot of numbers and colours, which you might not know what they're about. Well, obviously these numbers are the apertures. So you can only change this in single stops. So 2.8, 5.4, 8, 11, 16, 22. And if we look at the back of the lens when we do that, F22, F2.8. Big bit of glass at the front. It's got all the numbers there. 22mm Nikon. That's a nice thing to say there. And you'll notice that it's got these lines here. So that's an orange, a blue, kind of yellow, and a black. Black is telling you where the actual focus point is just now. But if you take it to 5.6, you notice that it's orange. That's the same colour as this line here. If I take it all the way to F22, which is a different type of orange, that is the same colour as this line up here. So this is telling you the hyperfocal distances. So if I were to have something at, say, 50 centimeters away from the camera, if it's at F22, it will be focused all the way up to 2 meters and all the way down to, what's that, 32 centimeters, somewhere around about there. So that is this. Obviously no autofocus, there's no hole for any autofocus bit to go into. But there is so you can control the aperture there. But that's more just for the film cameras. 99% of the time you'll be using this manually only. It's also got this little bit here, which I don't quite know what that's for. Don't quite know what it's for yet. On the camera, it's quite a small lens. I think it looks really good. I think it looks different. But yeah, the main thing is this focusing bit. You can never have a jerky movement at all. A little bit of extension whenever you zoom all the way in, notice. There, and all the way out. But otherwise, it is a beautiful, beautiful lens, manual only. Okay, so now I've got the Nikon 20mm f2.8 AIS lens on my Canon 550D camera. And this is going to be, from now on, known as the Hippo test. So I've got him on my tripod, and I'm standing just at the edge of his tripod. And we're going to be looking at how the zoom focus has any effect on the image. So at the moment we've got it at f2.8. So this is how close we can get to Mr. Hippo. I would say just about there. Now the background is lovely and blurry there. That's as close as we can get. And that's pretty much everything from nose to ears are in focus there. If we go a little bit further back and focus in, there the background still has a nice little bit of blur to it. There is still separation between Mr. Hippo and the background there. So that, I think, looks really good. Also, with it being a 20mm, the vibration isn't very obvious. So that's me holding it as still as I can. I'd say that's not too bad. Normally, sometimes whenever you focus a camera, yes, you can see it there, the image can either kind of get bigger or smaller by its focusing. And here, if I stay perfectly still and I focus wrongly, it will look like Mr. Hippo is going away a little bit there. Bring him into focus, and out of focus. It looks like he's moving, but the camera is staying totally still. So that's a little bit of change there. But with this lens, you're really always going to be wanting it around about the f2.8 to f8. That will give you the best, most pleasing look in the background. And here's a little shot of showing you how easy it is to focus. So that's on Mr. Hippo, and then we'll focus onto the background. Nice and smooth there. Because the focusing ring is so smooth, you don't get very much camera movement. And bringing it back to Mr. Hippo. The AIS lens is an awesome lens for doing video with. It gives a really good cinematic feel, and it gives you a fairly wide perspective, especially if you've only got a crop sensor camera like the 550D or the 7D. So I would say it's a very good value lens, and it's possibly better than the autofocus lens just because that mechanical movement that you've got of the focus ring is just beautiful. It just works so well. Okay, so some of you are probably wondering, why on earth would you get a manual focus lens only whenever you can get like autofocus lenses and stuff like that? Now, one thing about these lenses is that they're all handmade, and they're considered some of the best lenses that you could possibly get at the time. Now, you've got obviously all this autofocus and all the technology that goes into other lenses, but there's something which I was surprised about. Whenever I picked this up in a Japanese store, and I thought, AIS, what does that mean? And it pretty much means nothing. But it's just amazing. And for video, I think it looks fantastic. It's just so different. And even, because it's an old lens, glass should always be the same, but it kind of gives a vintage look to some of my photos that I've taken. It just looks really, really cool. And I'm using it on a crop sensor, so I can't wait to see what it's like on a full frame sensor, because that's what these lenses were made for. This is well before crop sensor technology came along. And it's strange, I kind of just fell in love with it. And even though it's all manual, having to change the aperture, having to deal with the focus, the only thing that the camera can do is shutter. So camera can control the shutter speed. But I've totally fallen in love with it, and it's like I've almost gone like retro, and I really like the ability to control the aperture straight from the lens, and I like having the control in my hand. It's like I don't know, it's hard to explain, but I've really turned around to this, and I absolutely love this lens. In fact, I'm using it pretty much for everything now. All my videos, all the Japanese videos that I've still got to put up are pretty much all done with this lens, and I started taking quite a lot of photos with it. So if any of you are ever wondering, should I go for an old lens or should I go for a new lens, try it out and just see what you think. For me, this little baby is well worth the money. You can't really find too many of these lenses, and in fact the older lenses are actually more expensive than the new ones with the autofocus, and it's something about just how smooth that is. It's so geeky, but it's just like smooth and just mechanically perfect, I think is the way to describe it. Optically, yeah, it could probably do with being a little bit better, could be doing with a little bit sharper, but if you're doing video, any lens that you get is going to be sharp enough for any video you do, because at the most, at 1080p, it's only 2 megapixel image that you're really getting from a lens. And all these lenses can easily do that. So yeah, that's my review of the Nikon 20mm f2.8 AIS lens. Hope you enjoyed.